Along the Red River, moving into areas of Denton and Wise County. Severe thunderstorm warning now in place until 6. Right now, we do have an enhanced risk for severe weather.
Look at that in the colony, 539. We had 95-mile-per-hour winds in the colony, 77 at 551 at DFW.
You will have that whole 1 hour 56 minutes when no one on the ground can bother you. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to be looking at this guppy breeding pond that we set up a while ago and see exactly how successful it's been. This thing is actually flourishing with life, both plants and fish. In fact, let's go ahead and feed these guys just real quick before we get started, and then we'll take a look at everything. For food, what we like to use is API tropical mini pellets as well as tropical flake. To make it easier to feed, I actually went ahead and took an old mini pellets container and mixed the two in here. The reason I mixed these is because with the guppy fry, it's hard for them to eat the big pellets. So I will go ahead and put some flake in here as well so they can all get some. So we're going to go ahead and drop some of this right in here. Well, now that we have these guys fed, I want to go ahead and take a look at everything. And I'm going to start by filling this little container up with a little bit of water to place all of this duckweed in. So we actually have duckweed as well as some frogbit in here. So I don't know if you saw the amount of plants that we started with when we started this entire setup, but you can actually see that right here. So you can see the tremendous amount of growth that we've had with the duckweed and with the frogbit inside of the setup. Now there's a multitude of reasons for that, and that is the nutrients in the water, all of the API products that we're using, as well as the lighting. But this stuff is growing great, and like I said, we just want to get these floating plants out of here just so we can see all of the babies. Alright guys, well now that we have a lot of this duckweed and these floating plants gone, we can now start to see the babies. And in fact, you look right there, you can see a fry there, you can see some over here, like hundreds and hundreds of baby guppies. And what I'm going to do, I have the GoPro set up right here in this open space, so I'm going to try to entice these babies to come over here with some food, some flake food specifically, and let's see if we can get a good estimate of how many are actually in here. So let's go ahead and do that now. Well, as you can see, there are hundreds of babies in here, and they are all over the place in here, guys. I mean, they are everywhere. The problem with the babies is that, well, the parents are cannibals, so they will eat the babies. So you probably see, in fact, I'll look right here, you can actually see the parents chasing the babies, and they will eat them. We may have to end up removing all the parents from this setup and letting these guys just simply grow up. But before we move on to the next guppy breeding setup for an update, I want to go ahead and show you some of these plants that we planted in here. So to start, this right here is a Java fern. And if you notice, this Java fern is reproducing. And on the back of this Java fern, there are seed pods, and each one of these will actually grow an individual Java fern, as you see right here. So we'll pull these off and drop these in here for them to continue to grow. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So far about 13 bait. Nope, there's another one, 14. 14 small little Java Java ferns that grew off of this one Java fern right here, and there's even more that are just not quite ready. So we're going to throw this one back in there and kind of see them all right in there floating around. So we have another Java fern here that's also growing and propagating, and as you can see on this one, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 more Java ferns from this. We have another one right here. This is all submerged growth. This one hasn't actually reproduced, and it may not for a while. That one's good. So we got 18 baby Java ferns from 2 Java ferns alone, and there's more still growing, so that's great success on those Java ferns. We also have some guppy grass in here that started to root into the bottom of this setup, which is good. It's spreading. So this Java fern is actually melting because it's losing all of its submerged growth, and we're going to pull that off. And then what's happening is the submerged growth is coming out right here, so this guy is going to be fully recovered soon, so we'll keep an eye on that one. Here is another piece with submerged growth that has fallen off. Looking through here, we also have this amazing, look at this thing, guys. Look at this. This thing is amazing. Look at the size of this. So we're going to go ahead and look, you've got multiple plants growing off of this one bulb. I can actually take one of these right here and just break it off and plant it, and the bulb will continue to produce, but we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to go ahead and rebury these roots and leave this thing to continue to grow, but it looks amazing, guys. So that's one of these lotus bulbs, and I believe we have a couple more in here as well. That tiger lotus bulb looks great, and then there's a Madagascar lace bulb in here. We also have some Christmas moss growing in here. I actually took a lot of it out for some other setup, so we need to replace that. We have a little crypt that actually had died off, and it's coming back, which is good. Another crypt, or a Nubius. So overall, this setup is doing amazing, guys. I mean, it has grown all kinds of plants. It's grown all kinds of fish. So eventually we'll be able to take all of these baby guppies and we could potentially sell them if we wanted to, which would result in a profit. So for now, we're going to go ahead and add all of this duckweed and all of the frog bit that's growing in here back into this setup. Go ahead and get our filtration going back. I want to go ahead and start kind of patting this duckweed and such down so it can spread back out and kind of get back to normal. Getting the water moving around will actually help the duckweed kind of separate and spread back out from taking it out. Still a couple of more clumps in here, as you can see right up in here, but it's almost spread completely back out, and then we'll move on to our next section here. All right, let's go look at the other guppy breeding setup we've got going. All right, guys, these are our guppy breeding setups. We have 2 sets in here, and then we have a bunch of fry that were put in here, and we're going to take a look at all of these today. So looking at the top of this one, the duckweed is very small and not growing very well. One of the things is there's not any planted substrate in the bottom of this one the way there is in this one and the way there is in this one. So the growth here is just a little less because of the fact that there's not enough nutrients in there. So we're going to have to start treating that with some API, either with some leaf zone and things like that, to try to get this duckweed to grow a little better. But then you come over here, there's growth all over the top, and then there's growth all inside of this one. This one actually has a problem with some hair algae, and we're going to clean that out right now. So for this one, we're going to go ahead and just kind of grab all these plants right here off the top, and we're just going to put them in this bucket right over here for temporary, because it's all the same plants, and I just want to get all of the floating plants right off the top here for just a little bit. And that's because we want to get all of this string algae out as much as we can, and we may have to, as you can see, we may have to like get rid of some plants if it is too entangled, but that's okay. I need to put some, maybe a mono shrimp in here or something like that, or figure out what's causing it. Like, it just must be too many nutrients or something like that, which is usually cause of string algae. But it may actually be manageable here. Let's see. All that, yeah, that's gross. Like, we don't want any of that in there, so get rid of that. Oh, there's some back here in the back too. It's actually not nearly as bad as I thought it was. We may be able to save this. Well, guys, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was. We got away with it pretty well. There's still string algae in here, so I'm curious, if you don't mind commenting below, let me know, how do you take care of string algae in your, or hair algae, whatever you want to call it, how do you take care of it in your setup? I know that you can inject it with hydrogen peroxide. There's all kinds of things. I personally just like pulling it out and then keeping the tank system set up and clean, but what are the ways that you deal with hair algae or string algae? Overall, everything is looking good in this setup. We're going to take a look because we have a couple of things growing in here. So I want to look at the plants. So I want to show some of the plants that are growing in here, but we have some of this, oh gosh, don't get me lying. I don't know. It's some sort of a moss. I'm going to put it on the screen here. I can never pronounce it, but it's a super cool moss and that's growing well. We actually have some growing in another bin in just a second we're going to take a look at, but it is growing fantastic in these setup. And then if we peek down here, you can see all of this guppy grass that's in here. It's all growing really well. And then we have a small little Anubias nana petite that was back here, but it was wrapped up in some of that hair algae, and unfortunately hair algae just sucks the nutrients right out of the water, so it's got a little bit of yellowing on it and stuff, and I think it was battling for the nutrients. And look, it's actually split into two. The rhizome literally split in half, probably from not getting enough nutrient. We're going to take this and make sure that this stays good. We'll put this up in the front right here in hopes that that will recover. But inside of this setup, that's really all it is. So let's move over to the next setup, and now what we're going to do is just take our hand, grab all this and put this back over here, because that all came from this setup. These all are the same parameters, same temperature, same everything. They have the same substrate, all of it. I regulate all that stuff so I can move fish back and forth. I do constant water tests on this stuff because I'm trying a couple of new methods for breeding guppies. I have I don't mind moving plants from one bin to the other, and just to be able to get some views into what's going on into this setup. So looking in here, this one has, let's see, a little piece of val, all the floating plants, and the guppy grass. So there's not a whole lot going on this one either, but I mean, from a plant perspective, there's baby guppies all inside of here, and we'll see if we can take a look at those here in just a minute. But let's move some of these plants back over here real quick. Some of these floating plants, everything's looking good in there. And now for our last bucket here, and I'm just going to move this stuff over because the plants in the bottom are actually growing quite well, I believe. Let's see. No cardinal plant. Anybody ever grown a cardinal plant? I'm having the hardest time getting these things to grow. This is the second one we've pulled out of a system today that has just disintegrated, so I don't know if it's CO2 needed. I'm not sure. Look at this though. This is propagated off of one of those red bulbs that we saw a minute ago, that big huge one, which you can see right here. And this one actually came loose from the bulb, and they will start to grow their own bulbs, so they will continue to produce. As you can see, this little tiny bulb right here, that will actually turn into a full-size bulb eventually. So that's really cool. That thing is good. And then if we go down here, we have another potted plant. Let's see what this is, and it's another cardinal plant. Look, completely disintegrated and gone. I guess I just can't grow these things, so we won't try those ever again. So moving through here, this is what I wanted to show you in this setup, because this is a massive ball, which you can see the name right here on the screen. But this stuff is so cool, and it is all in here. There is so much of it. Such a cool plant, and really green and vibrant, and it grows super easy. And look at that. Here's another one of those bulbs, and there's a piece of it that just broke loose right there, which is fine. That thing will continue to grow as well. It's all caught up in the guppy grass here. More guppy grass, so that thing will continue to grow. Look at all of that, guys. That is amazing growth on that stuff. And then we have another one of these red lotus bulbs that are, I think these are red lotus. You know what? I may be wrong about that. I'm gonna have to look that up. Unless you know, just comment below and let me know what these are. But they're super cool bulbs, and they grow really well. Gonna make an absolute mess in the bottom of this tank. It's gonna be so dirty now, but that's okay. I wanted to show you all the stuff going on over here as well, and it is looking fantastic in this setup. There's no hair algae or anything growing. I don't see any kind of problems with algae, but I want to go ahead and feed these guys as well, all three of these tubs. And once again, we will be feeding some API Tropical Mini pellets. So overall, guys, these tubs are looking fantastic. If you happen to have not seen the original video where we set these things up, you can actually go back and look through the playlist for breeding fish in the fish room, and you can see a link for that right above. Here's a little shot from when we first set these up, and as you can see, I mean, there's been substantial growth in these tubs from a plant perspective. Everything is looking really good in here, guys. I mean, the guppy breeding is going really well, and everything looks fantastic. Guys, I also have this plant set up outside, and I'm just testing some plant growth in an aquarium outside, and you can see that the duckweed is doing fantastic. We have a couple of really big swords that have started to grow really well. Look at the size of that potted sword. That has grown fantastic. But we have all kinds of stuff in here, and we will look at this later. There's actually some goldfish down in here. Well, not goldfish, but look at this Madagascar lace bulb. This thing is massive. I mean, it is grown so well. We'll put that back down in there, but we'll talk about what we're doing with this stuff later on. But I wanted to give you a quick update on what this stuff looks like. So now, before we get out of here, let's go take a look at the pond. Here is our pond, guys. Everything is looking good out here. All of the plants are looking good, and we're gonna drop some food real quick to see if we can get these guys to come swim up. So we'll drop some of this right here, and we'll just leave that right here and see if we can get these guys to come up and eat real quick. While we wait for them to show up, we'll come around this side and just see if they actually make their way up there, which they absolutely should. Eventually they will find the food up there. I don't see any of the bigger fish, so they are back here hiding behind this plant down here. We have some of our frog bit that's growing. All of the fish are coming over here. They think I'm gonna feed them over here, but they're actually being fed right over there. In fact, you can see where they're showing up. It has rained like crazy here, guys, so crazy, and well, we have been constantly trying to make sure that the water is maintained. The level of water in here is actually maintained because it has overflowed so much. I actually put this bin right here so when it overflows it catches it and doesn't flood my garden, but it's been doing really well and we've been able to maintain that. We did have a very serious storm not too long ago where it completely destroyed so many things at my house, guys. Like this massive pecan tree fell on my neighbor's house and it was just absolutely devastating. There's so much damage, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage, but you know what, we got it all cleaned up and yeah, everything is fine now. I do want to show you real quick. Look at this tomato. It's been half eaten by some little critter back here, and that's okay. At least our tomatoes are going to something good and something is eating them, which is good. If you notice right here, this is a pecan tree, and well, it has pecans on it. See that right there? Yep. That pecan tree is producing pecans currently. So we have another pecan tree here, and there was a massive branch right there, and that branch was probably, I don't know, it's about 12 inches in diameter. It hung way up here on top of the house. It broke, fell on top of the house, and destroyed a bunch of my roof. So as you can see, this tree right here completely uprooted and fell over. This tree is massive, 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 and you can see just how big it is. I mean, it's massive. So this thing uprooted, fell all the way across here onto my neighbor's house, completely blocking her driveway. And she's an elderly lady, and I was out of town for work when it happened, which was absolutely terrible. You can still see all of the cable left in the yard from when this occurred, and it just completely ripped all of the electrical and internet and phone service and such off the side of my house. You can see the brick broken right there. So I had to have all new electricity installed right here, which was very, very expensive if you know anything about electrical work, because you can't just have, well, you don't want some random dude just coming out and installing electrical. You definitely want somebody that knows what they're doing, right? So that is all the damage, and then I'm pretty sure the foundation is damaged, but this is the aftermath of all of the debris that is left from this. And right now, because there's so much storm debris in our area, you cannot get anybody to pick it up. So I'm waiting for the city to come pick it up. Hopefully that happens soon. So as a part of this, not only the pecan tree, which by the way, was a 100-year-old pecan tree. I also had this massive pine tree, which you can see how big the other ones are. They are huge. This one fell as well, or at least a big portion of it broke off, and a part of it actually landed over here in the driveway, right on the side of my Jeep, and put some big dents in the Jeep, which is terrible. What I've learned in this experience is some gratitude, right? Because there were quite a few people that died north of us, about 20 miles, in a tornado that hit the same night that all of this hit. So I'm grateful that no one was injured, and it's just materialistic things that have been damaged, and we'll get it fixed. I didn't put out a whole video on this. Why am I going to put out a whole video with everything's destroyed and all my stuff's gone? No, I don't need that, right? That's where we're at right now. Electricity's back on, and it has been for about a week, and the internet, and the city started to clean up the mess out front, and if they don't get it done quick enough, then I will finally hire somebody to come do it. Just right now with all the storm debris, you can't get anybody out to actually clean it up. With that, guys, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Hopefully you are enjoying the content, and if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that now, as well as follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Links to both are down below. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to do a giveaway for merchandise in the next video, so stay tuned for that. And if you are the person who won a couple of videos ago and you reached out to me, I will get to you, I promise. It's coming very soon, but with all this storm wreckage, it's delayed me a little bit. So like I said, guys, hopefully you went on to enjoy this, and well, we'll see you next time.